Hi everyone, I'm feeling Star Warsy today, and it's almost the end of the year, almost the end of 2016. So it is time for my annual year in review, what I did in 2016. I did a lot, so I'm gonna jump right into it. Let's go. January. In January, I watched a lot of Star Wars. Star Wars had just come out the month prior in December of 2015, hence all of this. I was working for the Canadian Improv Games, as I do. It was heating up, becoming final season. I started co-teaching a kids improv class, which was so awesome. It was the beginning of the year, and we had a lot of fun in that session. I was super busy with school. I was starting a completely new semester, and that was taking up a lot of my time. And I did my first collaboration with Kathy, which was so awesome. And hopefully we'll have more in the future. February! In February, the Canadian Improv Games finals happened in my region, and they went so awesome. I was so proud of all of my students. I attended SakinoCon for the second time, and I had a really awesome cosplay this year of Agent Peggy Carter. I'm so proud of how this cosplay turned out, and I couldn't have done it without the help of my friend Sasha, who created the skirt for me. Thank you so much, Sasha. Also in a show called The Handmaid's Tale. This was an improvised Margaret Atwood. This show was so creepy and telling of the way that we're going in society. It was a dystopic future, and I gained a really great appreciation of Margaret Atwood, who I sadly had not known very much about before, so that was great. I started filming my part of a collaboration with Alexandria Taylor, who is a huge part of FemTube and the creation of FemTube, and I'll link the collaboration down below, but I was super proud of Alexandria for putting this together, us all talking about body image and how we feel about our bodies, and this was one of my first big YouTube collaborations, so thank you, Alexandria, for having me. I did a very bizarre Twin Peaks improv show. I had never seen Twin Peaks before, but I did some improv. That was weird. Started performing in studio sessions, which were shows that were being held at Paper Street Studio when we still had the studio. And in February, I did one of my last events as a parliamentary player. As you'll notice in some of the other years, you'll hear me talking about this, but I did some of my last performances as Mary Ellen Smith, the first female MLA in British Columbia. March, or the Imperial March, am I right? Okay. In March, I got my wisdom teeth out. That sucked. I did an audition for the Less Than Famous panel, which happened at VidCon this year. Of course, I did not get it, as you would have seen on my channel if I did, but I had a great time auditioning for it. And one of my favorite YouTubers, Riley J. Dennis, was picked for the Less Than Famous panel, which made me so happy. In March, I did something for school called taiko drumming. It was an experience that was through a class called North American Asian Feminisms, and I got to try taiko drumming for the first time. Taiko drumming is an art form, and it can be used specifically as a form of resistance for Asian women, which I found so interesting and so amazing. So I had a great time doing that. At the end of March, I got to be part of an incredible show called Charming of the Shrew, which is an adaptation of Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare that was adapted by Launchpad Productions. They are some of my favorite people to work with, and I was so privileged to be able to do a show with them at Craigdarroch Castle, which is a historic site where I live, and that was an incredible experience to be both doing a Shakespeare adaptation, playing a role that was written for a man, but getting to put my own gender infusion on it, and I just had an incredible time. I love working with Launchpad. They're my favorite people, so mwah! April! In April, while I was finishing up Charming of the Shrew, as it went from the end of March to early April, we started afterwards the Paper Street Theater Festival. This was our first festival as a company, and we redid all of our styles from the very beginning. There was a couple of exceptions, like a couple of the Christmas shows, but we basically remounted every single show. I was so happy to be a part of it, and it gave me a really nice time to reflect upon my time at Paper Street Theater and how much I've grown and how much I've learned, how many styles I know after all of these years. So I love my Paper Street family. I'm so happy to be a part of it, and I'm so excited for the years to come. And that was for our 5th anniversary, so we had done 5 years, and so many exciting things on the horizon. Paper Street Festival. And at the very end of April, I think it was the last day of April, I did my first ever solo improv set. This was terrifying. It It was only 10 minutes, and it was for a studio session called Flying Solo, but it was really, really scary. But I was really, really proud of myself because I had been wanting to try this for so long, and I just didn't know how to just start. And it starts with experimentation. It starts with learning to fail, and I had a really great time being coached through it by Dave, and I had a great experience. So I am hoping to do more solo improv in the future, but a lot of learning to do. May the force be with you. I should have just done that, like a pun for every month. Oh well. In May, I booked an incredible contract with the Intercultural Association of Victoria, working on workshop performances that were centered around the topic of police bias, police brutality, and how immigrant communities and police communicate with one another. This was probably one of the most fulfilling projects that I worked on in 2016. I learned so much from the other actors, from my directors, from the facilitators, from the outreach coordinators, and I was just so happy to be fusing the activist work and the gender studies work that I do with something else that I love, which is theater and what I do in my life, what I do with my career. So it was a perfect blending of everything that I am coming together. And even though I am not an immigrant, and I had to work through that lens of not understanding from that way, my family comes from a line of immigration from the Philippines. So this was incredibly important for me to participate in. It was the most eye-opening experience, and it was one of those moments where you know exactly what you want to be doing for the rest of your life, and it was that moment. So I am so excited for the work to come, and incredibly, incredibly honored to have been picked to do this contract. I also worked the UNO Festival for Intrepid Theatre, which was an incredible experience. I got to see some amazing solo performers, which was connected to the whole solo set thing. I love to experience what solo performance feels like, but also be able to watch it and learn from other people, so that was incredible. The workshops for the Intercultural Association, the theater project we were working on, they started, so they happened in May and June. But I was so happy to start those performance workshops, and I had an incredible time. So much fun. June! In June, my little brother James graduated from high school. I have never been more of a wreck. I was so emotional, but I am so proud of everything that James has accomplished, and it was just a real big moment in our family. So congratulations, James. A huge first for me that happened in June was I got to travel to Seattle to perform in the Seattle International Festival of Improvisation. I felt so incredibly privileged and honored to be able to do this. I was one of the youngest members at this festival, and I felt so happy to be around so many like-minded people from all over the world. I got to meet people from Germany, from Sweden, from Finland, from Italy, from the States, from other places in Canada. It was just an incredible experience. I spent a week there, and we learned about immersive theater and what immersive theater means to improv, and I went in with like zero expectations. I was going in thinking I'm gonna meet so many amazing people, I'm gonna learn so much, and I absolutely did. It was a life-changing experience, and I will never ever forget it. July. In July, I started rehearsals for the Victoria Fringe Festival. Paper Street was drawn in the Early Bird Fringe this year, well, I guess last year, which means that we started rehearsals, and we were doing an improvised Quentin Tarantino 2, which means instead of doing just Tarantino as a style, we were specifically doing Tarantino Westerns. I also started doing something called scouting. I have never been part of the Scouts, and I was part of the Girl Guides as a kid, but I was a mascot for this Victoria Fringe Festival, which ended up being a scout. So I was called a Fringe Scout, and I started my duties in July. And that was really, really fun. I got to have a cute costume and just basically got to be so positive and happy about a festival that I love so much. And it was an incredible job. It was just a mini contract, but it didn't really feel like I was working ever, so that was so fun. In July, some of Paper Street's friends from Amsterdam came over, Laura and Sven, which was so fun to meet you both, and I had a great time learning from them. So happy to show you around Victoria, and had so much fun. I also taught one of my first drama summer camps, which was so fun. I had an incredible group of 5 kids who created a show, so centered around the Terminator, and it was so fun. I was so happy to have them. Also in July, the Dungeons and Dragons improv show. I think this was my 3rd time performing in this show, or 2nd. I don't remember. But I had such an incredible time getting to build characters on the spot. We changed the format so that the audience gets to build the characters with us, and then we become the characters and play them. I look forward to many more in the future. August. That's my gust. I don't know if you could tell. In August, my friends Nicole and Jeff got married. It was the most wonderful, wonderful wedding. I had so much fun. I was very teary, and they know how to put on a good wedding. For the first time, I performed in the Gabriola Island Theater Festival with Paper Street Theater, which was so fun. We got to travel to another island, and we performed with an improvised Margaret Atwood, so we got to redo that show again. And at the end of August, the Fringe Festival happened. You all know, if you've watched any of my videos or know anything about me, that Fringe is like my favorite time of year. It's an incredible 2 weeks filled with art, filled with friendship, filled with learning, filled with so much. And I was lucky enough to be able to perform in an improvised Quentin Tarantino. I was able to be a scout, so I was working for the Fringe as well. I got to see so many incredible shows. I got to meet so many incredible people, including someone who is very, very important to my life now, and you may be hearing about him on this channel a little bit more. But that was the last thing that I said for this month. I met someone named Tony, who is now my partner, and we have a pretty magical story, but that is for another time. But needless to say, my August was very, very good, and meeting the people that I did in that month really helped shape the rest of my 2016, so let's keep going. September! In September, I went to the Vancouver Fringe Festival as an audience member. I'd never done that before, and I had such a fun time. I only went for like 2 or 3 days, but I had a really, really awesome time there, seeing great shows, and yeah, just keeping the Fringe experience going. And of course in September, the 2016-2017 CIG season began. October! October was a huge month for me. I went to Geek Girl Con in Seattle, which is a convention specifically about feminism and intersectionality and women, and oh my god, it was incredible. It was all thing geek, all thing feminist, and I got to meet Anita Sarkeesian, which is huge. It was like the biggest thing for me. I got to give her information to this channel, which was incredible. And I had so much fun. I went with Kathy, and while I was there, I also got to perform in Seattle for the 2nd time. So I got to perform in a couple of the shows at Unexpected Productions, which was so fun. And I got to see one of my good friends, Chaz, who I love so much. Mwah! Chaz, I think you'll really like all this Star Wars stuff that I'm wearing. This may not seem like a huge deal, but in October, I dyed my hair this lighter color, and I had dyed it like a teeny little bit before. It was more like highlights, but this kind of signified a huge change to me, and often hair changes do. It was the first time I ever dyed my hair, and I was making a change. I was making my look to reflect how I felt inside, and that was excited and fresh and new. It brought me into a bunch of life experiences that happened over the course of the rest of the couple months. In October, I got to take a large trip and a vacation to Ottawa to see my best friend Lorianne. I had such a fun time. I did so much. I got an epic tour of Parliament, and I got to sit in Justin Trudeau's chair. Smolder. I got to see some theater in Ottawa while I was there. Tony was performing in a show called Novel House. I got to do it all, really. I got to see my best friend and stay with her and experience her hometown with her and her childhood home. I got to see Tony and see him perform, so that was really amazing. And I just got to experience a new city and get out of Victoria, so that was a huge trip for me. It meant a lot. A couple of days after I got back from Ottawa, I opened a show called An Improvised Edgar Allan Poe. It kicked off the 6th season of Paper Street, and we got to tell short stories rather than one long narrative, and that was really, really fun to do. And I had a really epic costume. November! Tony moved here from Ottawa, which is connected to the next thing, which is almost as soon as he got here, we started working on a small piece called Lub Dub. This was for Impulse Theater's Evening of New Work called Peak Show. We got to create a 15-minute piece centered around the idea of excitement. This piece was unlike anything I've ever done before. It aims to be a mash between our different theatrical styles, so me being an improviser and Tony being a playwright. And this was a really cool experience for both us and audience. We got to experiment in a safe space and create a piece that actually means so much to us, and I'm really excited to say that we will be working on this further and producing this show in the new year, which is super exciting. A couple of pictures here of Lub Dub, but basically we got to interact with the audience in a way that I never even knew possible, and that was really fun. Also in November were the ends of my classes, and I've been taking classes basically this whole year except for in the summer, and I actually got to do a blog launch for a class called Transnational Feminisms, and I got to show one of my videos, link it down below, of what is transnational feminism for an entire class and for an event, which is probably the biggest showing of my online and YouTube work ever. So that was kind of a big deal, and I had a great time hosting the event and watching my face on a huge big screen. Oh god. December! In December I did my first storytelling event called Confabulation. I told a story about my grandma's immigration and my mom's experience in Canada, all as Filipino women. It was incredible. It changed my life, I think, and it was the first time I openly spoke about my experience as a Filipino woman. I love storytelling. I'm going to be doing more of it in the future, and I thank the folks at Confabulation for having me. I also did a cabaret event called Home of the Holidays. I've done this a couple of times before, but Kid Sidekick and Shyface were back to talk about the importance of centering women in history. In December I got to do a really fun murder mystery with enigmatic events, and it was so fun. I ended up being the murderer. Theater company was drawn in the early bird fringe lottery, which means that I'm probably performing in the 2017 Victoria Fringe, potentially doing a solo show. My last shows of the year was an improvised romantic comedy, specifically set at Christmas. This is Paper Street's last show of 2016, not the last show of the season, but our Christmas show. This show went incredibly well. It sold out the entire run, and we added another show and that sold out too, and I feel so incredibly blessed and honored to be part of this company and part of our community that supports us so well. Thank you. Thank you so much. And the last thing that I want to bring up of something that happened this year, which hasn't technically happened yet, but I was asked to create a YouTube class for teens in the form of a new media class, teaching them how to create content, how to be responsible online, how to navigate YouTube. And this was kind of a perfect way to end the year for me, because I'm so happy with the progress that has happened on this channel, for all of you who are watching and supporting me, for the huge gains of Fistful of Feminism that have happened this year, whether it be presenting it at my university or becoming a partner with Feminist Apparel. There's so many things that have been accomplished through Fistful of Feminism, and it wouldn't have been without all of your support. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm so excited for what 2017 is going to hold and have in store. That being said though, 2016 has been a really terribly bad year politically and culturally. There are going to be so many challenges going into 2017, and I'm honestly very scared about it, and I don't really know what is going to happen. And this week, Carrie Fisher passed away. If you don't know, Carrie Fisher played Princess Leia in Star Wars and has been in so many iconic films for all of her career. She is an incredible mother, an incredible author, actor, feminist, advocate for mental illness, and her loss has been really affecting to a lot of communities, and to me too. I had the honor to meet her when I went to Fan Expo last year. So I want to show you the picture that I have with her. It's been really, really hard, which is why everyone is basically saying, fuck 2016. It's always a good thing to reflect and to think about the happiness that has happened this year, and that is what I aim to do with this video, is to take up space and to remember for myself where I was at and what was happening. This is my last video of 2016. Thank you all so much for watching this whole year. I'm so happy and honored to be making these videos, and I hope that I'll be making more videos in 2017. But this has been my annual year in review, what I did in 2016. So thank you all so much for watching. If you like, you can subscribe and go there and da 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 da. And I will see you all not next Friday, but I'll see you in the new year. Bye.